Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Sherlock Episode 1 video. Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange is back, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. There is a Sherlock giveaway that I'm going to do for each of the episodes. I'm just going to give away a copy of the DVD for any season that you guys want. So all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Sherlock-related comment on this video. Be sure to click that bell so that you don't miss anything. So I know everything seems like it's lost. Sherlock and Watson are at odds. It seems like there's this rift between them that's never going to be healed. We have the grim specter of death in the form of Moriarty in the poem that they keep repeating through the episode. Things that you can't outrun. Death is inevitable, even though as a child, Sherlock tried to write it a different way. The person went to a different city and tricked death. So that's the idea of this new series. Will Sherlock be able to change the story, so to speak, and defeat Moriarty a final time even after his death? Because I don't think that they're trying to assert that he's still alive. Sherlock's convinced that he's dead, but that he's left him a game posthumously. Like there is one final game that will be the greatest game that Moriarty set in motion knowing that he was getting ready to die back in season 2. So that's sort of like the overarching storyline. They really only touch on it at the beginning of the episode and then again at the end of the episode. Like every once in a while you're reminded about it through the poem. But mostly this is a story about the Six Thatchers, which is a reference to the classic Holmes story, The Adventure of the Six Napoleons. So there are like busts of Napoleon that keep getting smashed, 6 busts, and all the people that get murdered along the way were the names that they used in the episode. So they almost did that exact same storyline, but obviously the TV show weaved that in with Mary's backstory. That was a change from the classic Holmes story. And in the original story, they weren't looking for a thumb drive. Obviously, you're talking about like 1900s. They were looking for the Black Pearl. That was hidden in one of the Napoleon busts. So in this episode, Sherlock thinks that that is what AJ is after. He thinks that he's after the Black Pearl, and that's why he's going around to all these places trying to smash all the busts and killing the people. So the important thing about that is just to remember that they did not solve the case of the Black Pearl. It's still out there. That might end up weaving in with the larger Moriarty plot later on. Like there are always times in Sherlock episodes where you think that the different cases all weave together. Sometimes they seem like they're not connected, but then over the course of the 3 episodes, they make more sense, even though within each episode, they might not necessarily be as connected as you think. So what about Toby Jones, the person that we saw in all the trailers? We didn't see him anywhere in this episode. He's really like the new big bad of season 4 in the way that Magnuson was the villain of season 3 and that Moriarty was the big villain before that. Although technically, Moriarty is always going to be the biggest villain, even when he's dead. So we'll see how Toby Jones' character is connected to that. But we don't know who he's playing yet. They haven't revealed that. We'll probably meet him in the 2nd episode, and then in the 3rd episode, just as is tradition with the series, you get your final big mystery to connect all of the episodes. You know, technically each of the episodes is kind of standalone with like a loose plot, like this Moriarty plot that gets strung out over the 3, and it really doesn't come together till the 3rd episode. So like whatever the plot is with Toby Jones, that'll have something to do with Moriarty's final game as Sherlock believes it. But it was a 90-minute episode, so it was packed full of Easter eggs from all across the Sherlock canon, from the TV movies, from the classic Holmes stories. So I've already explained the 6 Thatchers Easter egg, the Black Pearl Easter egg, but when Sherlock says that he's just going to wait for Moriarty's game to present itself to him, like I'm just going to start solving cases just like I normally would. So during that montage, they flashed all that text of all the cases up on the screen. Those are all Easter eggs for different Holmes stories. So the Dusty Death case is a reference to Sherlock Holmes and the Jeweler of Florence. The Dusty Death is a line inside the book, but the book itself is quoting Macbeth, and the line is, "All our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death." So that in and of itself sort of loops back around to the idea that you can't outrun your past. There are consequences. Mary's death was a consequence of the way she lived. She wasn't able to outrun death. It's inevitable. So we're like Inception, 3rd level deep Easter eggs here. The thumb with a bag of ice in it is a reference to a short story called The Adventure of the Engineer's Thumb. In fact, most of these other cases that I'll mention are probably from those Sherlock Holmes short stories. So the Duplicate Man, I think, is a reference to The Adventure of the Dancing Men, which is one of the short stories. The Circus Torso, I think, is a reference to The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger, which is another short story. The Canary Trainer is actually a short story by Nicholas Meyer, which is actually more recently, so that wasn't written by Conan Doyle. But the jellyfish case, like where they joke about trying to arrest a jellyfish, is a reference to The Adventure of the Lion's Mane, which is another one of the short stories, in which someone gets murdered and it turns out the culprit is a lion's mane jellyfish. In the elaborate case that he details when he's talking to the man whose wife has left him, sounds a little bit like Sherlock Holmes and the Voice of Terror, which is actually like a 1942 film based on the story His Last Bow, which itself was used as inspiration for the title of Series 3's finale, His Last Vow, which was also important in this episode too. So if you forgot the vow, that was actually Series 3, Episode 2. His last vow was to protect Mary, the baby, and Watson, like their trinity, like the Holy Trinity, with his life. So in his grief, Watson now blames Holmes for breaking his vow, allowing Mary to die. So as is the case in the past, sometimes they'll have like a big time jump between episodes. So like episode 2 might not pick up in the moments at the end of this episode, like we might be a couple months down the road. So of course we think that Watson and Holmes will mend the rift. Somehow Sherlock will find a way to uphold the terms of his vow to Mary, promise me that you will save John Watson. But in doing so, like we've seen in the trailer, like you see Watson down here in the well, Silence of the Lambs style, it puts the lotion on his skin. It's just going to test the limits of what Sherlock is capable of. And it all comes back around to what Mycroft was telling him about how sentiment is such a bad thing, how it's going to get him in trouble down the line. He definitely came off like a real villain when he was trying to ask him about Agra, like, what is this thumb drive? What's your involvement with them? Did you use this assassin's group? For a little while during that scene, I actually thought that Mycroft was going to be the one to have betrayed them until we learned that it was actually the receptionist who was just upset about the life that she chose not to lead. So the whole metaphor here is that Watson is like slowly turning into this old lady, so Sherlock has to save him from his grief so that he can come back out and live a full normal life. But as is the case with most Sherlock episodes, it's packed with Easter eggs. It was amazing. You can definitely tell they took their time building this script. It's just like so packed with stuff. You could watch this a couple times and find even more Easter eggs. Speaking of which, the dog was great. It's kind of a metaphor for Redbeard, which is sort of the chink in Sherlock's emotional armor, just proving that he's not a psychopath. He is a human with human emotions. Redbeard was his dog. As a child, they flash back to it whenever he got knocked out by Mary in the episode. So presumably something really bad happened to the dog and it died, and it just tore him apart. So every time he remembers it now, he just goes a little bit nuts. But speaking of chinks in the armor, so Mary's death, very emotional. Now Sherlock is in therapy, just like Watson was in therapy at the beginning of the series, way back in season 1. So Watson, we also have to talk about that WTF affair that he had during the episode. I will understand if you think it was complete garbage, but I feel like they did that for him just to make him feel like he didn't have the moral high ground, like to complicate his character so that he had his own secrets he was keeping from everyone else, just like Mary had her secrets and Sherlock has his own secrets. So the only other real big thing to remember for next week's episode is the sticky note on Mycroft's fridge. 13th, he calls someone, we don't know who it is, but it seems rather ominous, like he's setting something in motion, so that'll probably carry forward into next week's episode. So if you didn't know, episode 2 is going to air next week, episode 3 the week after that, so it'll be like one episode each Sunday after this. So if you spotted any in the episode that I didn't mention, just write them below in the comments. But what's going to happen is episode 2 will air next week, then episode 3 will air the week after that. So I will do a giveaway each week, and then tomorrow what's going to happen is I'll do like a 2017 video for like all the big stuff that I'm going to be doing videos for in the next month or two, the exciting stuff that's coming up that you guys should be really hype about. So it's going to be awesome. Starting off 2017 right. Yay, Sherlock is back. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here for like my big Sherlock playlist, and you can click here to learn all about the new DC Comics TV show that's coming this year. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.